Hello everyone, Nukin here, and welcome back again to my channel. This will be my second first look styled video, and I will run it very similarly to how the first look Fulcrum Ahsoka video ran. So we'll be taking a look at Grand Admiral Thrawn today and his abilities, his mods, usage in both the Rancor and the tank raids, and we'll highlight a few arena battles as well. I just want to give a quick shout out to my friend Ethan Shocks for supplying me with a few arena battles and the tank raid footage you'll see in this video. So thanks a lot, man. And without further ado, let's take a look at Grand Admiral Thrawn. Let's get started talking about Grand Admiral Thrawn's abilities. So he's a very complex character with a complex kit which relates to his lore. His first ability is called Manipulate, which is a basic attack which deals special damage to the target enemy, and it grants the enemy speed up for one turn, which is a buff. After that speed up expires, it'll inflict ability block for one turn. If they already had ability block, then they'll be stunned. And then in the raids, it deals special damage as well, but instead of inflicting ability block, it inflicts defense down for 2 turns, and all these effects can't be resisted. Grand Admiral Thrawn's first special is called Fracture. It's on a 3-turn cooldown, and it reads, deal special damage to the target enemy 4 times, dispel all buffs on them, remove 50% turn meter, and inflict Fracture until the start of Thrawn's next turn, or until Thrawn is defeated. This Fracture can't be copied, can't be dispelled, can't be evaded or resisted, and Fracture on character speed is set to 0. They can't gain buffs, they can't do bonus attacks, or gain bonus turn meter, and then in the raids, when you Fracture a raid boss, they get inflicted with a mega speed down, which is minus 50% speed, which is double of what speed down is. You can't stack it with speed down, but they can't gain buffs as well, and they have 30% reduced counter chance, which is very good in phase 3 of the tank raid. Now his second special is Grand Admiral's Command, which is also on a 3-turn cooldown. Now it reads swap turn meter with target other ally, dispel all debuffs on Thrawn and that ally, and they recover 40% protection. Now Grand Admiral Thrawn is also a leader, and his leader ability is called Legendary Strategist. Empire allies have 15% max protection, 25% offense, and gain 20% turn meter whenever they resist or have a debuff attempted to be applied on them. Whenever an Empire ally also gains or loses a status effect, which is a buff or a debuff, they will recover 2% protection. Empire allies also gain a new special ability, which is the Cleanse, and it's called Maneuver. Dispel all debuffs on that character, and they gain 50% turn meter, and it's on a 3-turn cooldown. And Thrawn's last ability is a unique, and it's called Ebb and Flow. Thrawn has 100% counter chance, 100% tenacity, and minus 50% speed while any enemies are fractured. Whenever another Empire ally uses a special ability while Thrawn is active, that ally will gain 15% turn meter, and if any enemies are fractured, Thrawn and fractured enemies lose 15% turn meter. So overall, it's an amazing kit. But now let's move on to the max gear requirements for Grand Admiral Thrawn. So what do you need to max him out? So you're looking at about 3 Rancor pieces, which is about average. But for Grand Admiral Thrawn, he uses a lot of those droid collars and not any other Rancor piece. So if you're low on those, it's going to be difficult to max gear him out. He's looking average on gold pieces at 220 gold pieces, and then for purple he is towards the very top end of the spectrum at a whopping 1650 purple parts, which is quite a lot. You're talking like General Kenobi status there, and we'll look at the specific gear parts in just a second. And to wrap it off, around 339 blue parts, which is not too bad overall. So let's look at Grand Admiral Thrawn's full gear list, and I'll be honest with everyone, it's not looking pretty because he requires 400 MK3 Carbanti salvage. That is 8 fully completed MK3 Carbanti, so we're looking at a character that is about as hard to gear up as General Kenobi, And if you haven't even completed that project yet, then Grand Admiral Thrawn is going to be on the back burner for quite a bit. Now, the bright side is, depending on the type of gear that you have saved up, for example, if you get a lot of the droid collar salvage from the Rancor raid, that's the only type of Rancor piece he requires. The MK4 stun gun salvage and the MK5 power cell salvage, we all have probably within the thousands or definitely in the hundreds of. There's a bunch of challenge gear there as well, like some MK4 keypads, or sometimes we call them laptops. But he definitely has a lot of difficult pieces as well, like 3 MK5 stun guns, 2 MK7 shield generators, a bunch of those MK3 holo projectors, so definitely a pretty difficult character to gear up overall. Now, one extra positive though is on the MK3 Carbanti topic. To max him to gear 11, it only requires 6 fully completed Carbantis, because 2 of those Carbantis are at gear 11 to fully max him out. So it's not as difficult to get him to gear 11, but to max him out, it's definitely going to be a pain in the butt. So now let's look at Grand Admiral Thrawn's mods. So for Arena, you want to run a speed set and a 2-piece tenacity or crit chance set. The squares and the diamonds will always have primaries of offense and defense respectively. For the circle, you want to run a protection primary circle, especially if he's going to be your leader. For the arrows, you want to run a 30 speed arrow, and that is the case about 95% of the time in this game. For the triangles, you want to run a primary of offense or crit chance. That's because he has very low crit chance, and you want to focus on that special crit chance because he does special damage. And for the cross, you want to run a health, protection, or offense cross, and I think offense is probably the best in the slot right there. So now let's look at some of the arena footage here. So we've been seeing Grand Admiral Thrawn in Galactic War and a few arena battles. Right now, this is a General Kenobi lead with Fulcrum Ahsoka, R2-D2, Chirrut, and Thrawn. So the Fracture debuff is a hard counter to carry heroes that try to do all of the damage, or they're the ones getting the final blows. So characters like Chirrut and Darth Nihilus, Fulcrum Ahsoka, heroes like that they are the ones that are basically doing all the damage or getting all the kills. So Fracture singles them out, so they can't do their thing. He's also a hard counter to Baze and General Kenobi, and it just happens that all of these heroes are the meta heroes right now. The only thing that is a drawback is that you can only Fracture one person at a time. There is no dual or AoE Fracture like debuff currently in the game right now. So that's where Thrawn excels. So you can Fracture Kenobi, he won't taunt, or Baze, and they won't ever be able to gain the taunt because it's kind of like a buff immunity shock mechanic type of thing. Other things that are good is because you can get multiple fractures off, and so for example we fractured Kenobi, but now we fractured Baze, and you can single out one of the tanks to allow yourself to try to kill some of the other heroes. So here we are trying to single out Kenobi to take him out, and the fracture is going to last long enough where we can focus on Chirrut, take him out, and then save Baze for last, which is typically what you want to do in an arena battle. Moving on from arena to the Rancor raid, we have Grand Admiral Thrawn in the Rancor under a Zader lead. So we took out TIE Fighter Pilot from this team, and TIE Fighter Pilot, what he brings to the team is tenacity down. Now the only character that gets kind of affected by this the most is Darth Vader, and that's okay because we don't really need to put extra dots. We don't need the speed down because Grand Admiral Thrawn has Fracture, which speeds down the Rancor. I don't think it's reducing the full 50% right now. I think it might be a little bit bugged. And the reason why Jyn and Tarkin don't need tenacity down is because they are able to remove turn meter because they have a lot of stacking potency. Tarkin can stack it up pretty quickly, and Jyn has a lot of stacking potency from her unique. So let's look at some of the combos that we can do here. So we can give turn meter to characters with Jyn and Thrawn. So watch what happens in a real world scenario when things aren't going correctly. So Jyn is about to do her Truncheon Strike. And here we go. She does her Truncheon Strike. She gets resisted, reduce some turn meter, but now her ability's off on cooldown, and Thrawn gets to go. We give Thrawn full turn meter. Thrawn goes and gives back full turn meter back to Jyn, and then she can use her truncheon strike again. So that's just a little combo that you can do, and the Rancor is probably like, can I take a turn right now? And you're like, no please, I need to solo you. So there's a lot of turn meter mechanics from not just reducing turn meter, but swapping turn meter with your allies, which allows your allies to, get their abilities off cooldown to reduce turn meter. So lastly, moving on from the Rancor raid to the tank raid, we have Grand Admiral Thrawn that really excels in Phase 3. Now there's two teams. There's the Chirpa Thrawn team, which involves basically the Turpentine team, which is upgraded, and you take out one of the tanks and you replace them with Grand Admiral Thrawn, and you can dramatically probably double or triple your Turpentine damage with that team, which is excellent, and there's some semi-auto mechanics there. The footage that you're watching here is the Imperial Grand Maneuver team, which is a Grand Admiral Thrawn lead with Director Krennic, Shore Trooper, Tarkin, and Jyn Erso. And the whole point of this team is basically to be able to solo the team, and it's more of a turn meter reduction team than anything else. So just like in the Rancor, and you have T-Bow and Zader, and you're trying to reduce the turn meter, you're trying to reduce the turn meter of the raid boss here, and the only thing that's different is there's no door lock like in the Rancor, and you have that tank in the back which will one-shot one of your characters if you don't have a buff. But the way that this team works is that you're gaining a lot of turn meter when you're using specials with Empire allies, because when Shore Trooper has taunt up, and when the Fracture is down, you're going to be gaining 30% turn meter if you're an Empire ally using a special. You gain an extra special with Grand Admiral Thrawn's lead ability called Maneuver, hence the name, and you have Jyn Erso in there, which she's not an Empire ally, but she's just amazing at reducing the turn meter of the raid boss. So if you don't have a Director Krennic or one of these heroes, you're looking for a Empire ally, or teammate I should say, that has multiple specials. So if another Empire character that comes out with 2 specials, they will make this team better. You're also looking for maybe an Empire character or hero that has a special on a low turn cooldown. So if you have Imperial Commando, he's still pay to play, but eventually he'll be free to play. He might make this team better potentially. But Director Krennic is excellent on this team, same with Tarkin. So basically you're just trying to do as much damage as possible, and if you can't auto the phase, which has been shown to be possible, then you can definitely manually play it, but it will take a while. So I think that kind of wraps things up. I will be having a Thrawn series myself coming out, and I'll just be, highlighting Thrawn more in depth than what we went into this video. Being able to do the Rancor. There's also a team that's possible without T-Bow leads or Zader leads and using a Thrawn lead, and you're able to do significant amounts of damage there. There's the Chirpa Thrawn team that I'll be refining and making better. There's also this Imperial Grand Maneuver team, which is a team that I think is going to stand the test of time and be refined as more characters come out. So there's just a lot of stuff to talk about Thrawn, so I'm really excited about him being the second fan favorite, and I was able to unlock him, and not only unlock him actually, but take him to 7 stars, so that was a trip. And so we're going to start wrapping up this video. So today we talked about Thrawn's abilities and his mods, usage in both raids, the tank raid and the Rancor raid. And I think Thrawn is a great character. He has a good kit. He's good in all aspects of the game, so he's definitely a character that you're going to want to gear him up eventually. Something to note is you don't need to gear him up super high for some of the raids, so that's a plus. So you don't need to do that, initially, but eventually you're going to want to gear him up anyway. He's a character that's going to be a hard counter to any team that comes down the pipeline in Squad Arena that relies on a carry hero to win the match. So look out for any sort of characters that are like Fulcrum Ahsoka, for example, or Darth Nihilus. He's going to be your go-to to counter those teams. And on top of that, there's a lot of speculation that maybe eventually Grand Admiral Thrawn will have a ship, or maybe even a capital ship, which will just make him that much more valuable, and possible that to attain. I think they won't do that until he becomes more available to more people, because not everyone was able to 7-star him, but only time will tell on that. So if you haven't already, please take the time to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already to see future content, and I will see you guys next time. You're welcome.
Then I'm the macho like Randy. The chopper go ice for granted. This nigga pull up your bandit. The killers understand it.